WIBTA if I reported my girlfriend's colleague for giving away my confidential info. So I think it's an incredibly clear-cut situation, but since my girlfriend is begging me not to, I don't think he will. But anyway, my girlfriend is a doctor and works in a small local hospital. She went back to her parents for a week when she had a week off and I stayed in our home. I had a minor accident and an ambulance was called. In the hospital, another doctor who I didn't know came up and said he had a few questions to ask while I waited on tests. Some basic stuff, but also he asked some questions like, "And how long since you masturbated? Are you sexually active? How many partners have you had? Do you have currently? When did you last have sex?" Since it was a doctor asking, I answered honesty. All was fine until my girlfriend returned to work. The doctor had apparently told everyone all my personal info. Nothing scandalous, but he said to her, "Wow, it's been 2 weeks since you have had sex. Better do it tonight so he doesn't have to walk again." She was hugely embarrassed, but I was furious. He used my private info to spread gossip about mine and my girlfriend's sex life. I absolutely wanted to report him, but my girlfriend says it's not worth it and that everyone would blame her if he got fired. You would be a massive asshole if you did not report this behavior. He's doing it with you for mere gossip. He will do it more if he's not stopped. This is not a tiny breach. That's a massive breach. That means that the guy has done, and will do it again. Not reporting it might kill someone sometime, and I am not exaggerating. Report him. NOW. He did this to you, for gossip, and humiliated you and your GF. He will do the exact same thing to an abuse victim or a mentally distressed person, and it could very well have fatal consequences for them if the wrong thing is said to the wrong person and or the humiliation, shame is too much. Write a detailed account of the incident, including what was said to your GF, and send it to his superiors. It will save a lot of people a lot of grief. Holy shit, applicant. Lines crossed that cannot be uncrossed. That is absolutely not okay. Not as a joke or a prank. Not as anything. That's a grotesque abuse of his position and seriously calls into question his professional judgment, and needs to go straight to his professional body to consider further. Establish if this is part of a pattern of lying to patients and breaching confidentiality. All that. Please report him. Who knows what else he might give himself permission to do. Whether it's okay or not can be judged by the proper authority. Out of your hands. Needless to say, everyone would blame him if he got fired for lying to patients and breaching confidentiality. Not a clinician, but have worked more than a decade in the industry. Should report this to the Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights, OCR, at this link. Once reported, it's out of the hospital's hands. The OCR will investigate. Any related retaliation by the hospital upon the ops physician girlfriend would result in penalties to the hospital, and would be made public. As long as the hospital can prove appropriate privacy training to all staff and show consistent application of the required policies, that jerk MD is going to be hung out there, all on his own. Alternatively, OP can find out who the hospital's privacy officer is, and report it to them. If satisfactory progress is not made with a privacy officer in a reasonable time frame, then report to the OCR. Is the jerk MD a chief or department head or something, and therefore has some power over the ops MDGF? HR may not be the appropriate, expedient place to report because not all hospital physicians are direct hospital employees. Many times, doctors are credentialed at a hospital, but not employees, and many times their docs specifically are part of a physician group contracted by the hospital. I am also a doctor. This is a major lapse of ethics and is highly illegal. You will probably be fired if you report it to the appropriate people. Realistically, your wife may face repercussions for it as well if you report it. She did nothing wrong, but stuff like this looks bad for everyone and tends to make enemies of management and higher ups in the department. This is what disturbs me the most about this story. Your girlfriend is a doctor and she doesn't see that this is a major violation. That is a horrible reflection on how she believes. I'm actually more upset about her not wanting to do anything. What other violations is she willing to look the other way about? Sexual assault, abuse, drug use? If he did this to a colleague, what the hell is he spreading about patients he doesn't know? Anti-A. Your doctor does not get to pass moral judgment on your sex life, and does not get to play arbiter with who does or does not get to know it. He shouldn't say or do things at work he's not afraid for his superiors to know. I don't think they'll think it's as funny. I know your girlfriend is worried about the cascading effect, but it's not about her. It's about protecting integrity and sensitive information. Seriously, even if this doctor had mentioned to girlfriend, "Oh, I met your BF the other day in the that was a nasty fall he took," or something, he'd probably still be violating HIPAA. The GF wasn't involved in his care, has no reason to be involved in discussions of his care, isn't next of kin and being informed for medical decisions making etc., that we know of. Hell, if GF went into the computer system and searched for opened ops records to see what happened at his visit, that would be a violation since she had absolutely no reason to know about his private medical information. So using his information for gossip, a joke, to literally sexually harass a coworker, that's beyond wrong and illegal in several ways. WIBTA. I think you should discuss this with your GF more. Was this ill-advised, colleague-to-colleague teasing, or indicative of larger problems with maintaining patient confidentiality? Does your GF engage in this kind of behavior with her colleagues? What if a celebrity had an accident nearby and this doctor blabbed all his or her details? That celebrity would bury the hospital in lawsuits. I think it's worth reporting. I can understand how your GF might feel that this would make her the hospital outcast, since her partner snitched on another doctor, or might make her a target for retaliation, but that doesn't excuse the fundamental violation of it all. What if a celebrity had an accident nearby and this doctor blabbed all his or her details? That celebrity would bury the hospital in lawsuits. When the celebrity hospital in London dropped the ball on Kate Middleton by letting through a prank call from Australian radio hosts who received information on her first pregnancy, I thought that all the beaten women in UK shitted their pants at the idea that the hospitals could blab to their abusive partner. Same with the closeted homosexuals, AIDS victims, pregnant teens and so on. Lots of people could be in giant trouble if a doctor is not careful with personal information, and I doubt it would be above him to use such information as leverage to take advantage of a vulnerable woman. Anti-A. Report him. Now, this wasn't a slip-up or an accident. This doctor went in and intentionally gathered personal, and irrelevant if I was guessing, information with the intention of releasing it. What a giant awe. While I sympathize with your girlfriend's position, she took oaths as a doctor. If she's asking you to accept this illegal violation for her comfort, if she's willing to let this fellow doctor violate policy and law to avoid her discomfort. I think you need to talk to her. I understand the knee-jerk reaction of wanting to avoid conflict, but that's not the job she signed up for. She will likely find herself in a position at some point of knowing a fellow healthcare worker has made a major error, a violation, harassed someone etc. She needs to decide if she's going to sweep things under the rug or stand up. I'm fairly certain she's aware that she was sexually harassed, which is another factor in her wanting to not report him. He 100% needs to be reported, but the GF needs to have agency in this decision and process as well. As a woman, I weigh my options very carefully when I'm sexually harassed at work. This will directly affect her working life, and we've kind of been conditioned for a long time to just accept things, so I completely understand her apprehension. I once had to go to the emergency room in my home country. I didn't want to tell my uncle cause he always sticks his nose where it doesn't belong, but he called me while there so I told him. Turns out, he knew a doctor at the hospital. Not only do I get preferential treatment not even 5 minutes after telling him where I am even though I explicitly told my uncle to stay TF out of it, but I didn't get any information through the doctors again. They told my uncle everything, who then texted me what's going on. Until this day I have not forgiven this huge violation of my rights and privacy. That doctor just took my uncle's word that I am his niece and told him everything, even though we don't even share a name. My greatest regret is not reporting him. Telling other confidential information is a massive violation and needs to be reported, especially as a healthcare worker, and I am sure that whatever doctor doesn't have problems with sharing your information, also doesn't have a problem with sharing other people's information. NTA, and report him. ETA. I mentioned the preferential treatment because I was extremely embarrassed by it and did not want that under any circumstances, which is why I explicitly told him to stay out of it. My home country is riddled by corruption and I did not and do not want to have any part of it. It felt like just another violation to me. NTA. Aside from breaking doctor-patient confidentiality, this guy made a sexually inappropriate comment to your GF. Neither of these things are okay. It makes me wonder if he's done either before. I get why your GF doesn't want to, but I would report him. It wasn't professional, it put your GF in an uncomfortable situation, and it was just inappropriate for the comment to even be said. NTA. I can empathize that this is probably going to damage your relationship, but your girlfriend should have reported it, and didn't, and is now trying to convince you not to. Worse, she was in on it. Like playing with HIPAA information is a fun game. This time, we really are talking about a HIPAA violation on the internet. People have been getting that one wrong for over a year now, but this time HIPAA really does apply. This is tough. NTA. This was your information and he blatantly flouted HIPAA laws. That said, while I don't think it is your girlfriend's call, you should take her feelings into account. This is her job, and while she can't technically get fired for this, most places are at will, and if this doctor is connected enough, they could find a reason to fire her or make her job miserable. But at the same time, he clearly broke the law, so in no way would you be an asshole, but it could be harmful to your relationship if you do it. That said, I'd talk to her and tell her how violated you felt by this and ask her if she cares about your feelings. I am thinking that she probably could be fired for cause for this. She is more than likely required to report HIPAA violations. Anyone who that doc told who did not report him could potentially face consequences. I believe OP could also bring a suit against the hospital, which they probably realize, and that could provide some cover for the GF. All told, it may be best for him to consult an attorney. NTA. Please report this guy. My mom's a doctor, so I've grown up hearing about stuff that comes up in ethics committees, etc. This guy has committed a huge violation for the purpose of harassing your partner. He almost crossed the line by asking you all those personal questions in the first place. Unless it was somehow relevant to your accident, he should have never even asked. So, he exploited the power dynamic between doctor and patient to get you to give up personal information, then spread it around to humiliate your girlfriend. This is almost certainly not the first time he's done stuff like this, and it won't be the last. People like this don't just stop with gossip. There's a good chance he'll escalate beyond gossip and verbal harassment. Don't just take it to HR, take it to the relevant authorities, probably the Office for Civil Rights or State Attorney General. Ex-Healthcare IT here. If you do not report this, you are doing a disservice to yourself and every other patient this guy sees. He directly, and without reservation, violated HIPAA. I say this because no one around him needed to know anything about what was said. Medically, none of them were on your case and actively treating you. There are very clear rules about handling PHI, personal health information, and he violated all of them. Report him to the hospital HR, and the medical board. Additionally, go get yourself a lawyer right now because you have a real case against this. What he did is not okay. If you do not put him out of business as soon as possible, you will be the NTA. NTA. $5 says none of those questions are actually on the questionnaire and he asked them to be a nosy. I'll bet he has a thing for your GF. This has all the feeling of pulling your hair to say I like you except grown up. Edited to add, blaming the GF for him getting fired is dumb. Coach her to say that he got himself fired, that she in no way commanded, coerced, or desired him to ask sexual questions to you nor to make inappropriate comments to herself about it. If those actions were not a big deal, then he wouldn't have gotten fired. And if they don't agree that he should lose his career over it, then they disagree with the decisions the administration made, not her, and they are free to go find a job elsewhere where such actions are encouraged and see what kind of work environment that produces. He might not get fired, but he should. What does it matter to coach her to say whatever? The issue is that HR and colleagues will blame Op's girlfriend. She will be labeled as a troublemaker, one of those women you can't even talk to without her shouting sexual harassment, too sensitive, etc., etc., etc. See the Activision Blizzard lawsuit. HR are usually complicit and work to cover up the abuse and work out the victim because the victim is the squeaky wheel that is making waves in their well-run system and bringing down shame upon the institution, based on nothing more than hearsay. What Opt said to her, what the doctor then said to her, and he said she said. Besides, how do they know that she didn't want this, and didn't talk about her sex life with this doctor before? He will certainly claim anything to make him look less guilty, and they will believe him because he's a great guy, a great doctor who has saved many lives and doesn't deserve to have all his hard work and years of studies and lives saved ruined because of some woman who can't take a joke. I have seen all of these phrases and more used in the workplace when women report harassment, and every time something was soon found that got her fired. Usually a minor violation which everyone else at the workplace does too, like getting late from lunch or something. NTA if you report him. NTA if you don't. He's a huge asshole. He should be reported, but you're entitled to look out for your relationship with your girlfriend, too. If you want to just move on for her sake, you can without guilt. If you do decide to report him, go further. Talk to a lawyer. You might want to do that even if you don't report him, just to know your options. If you're in the US and you file a lawsuit, it will never go to trial unless your demands are too high. He's personally liable. The hospital is liable. You would receive a significant payout and your attorney's fees would be covered. Automod. The following is a copy of the above post. This comment is a record of the above post as it was originally written, in case the post is deleted or edited. Read this before contacting the MAD team. So I think it's an incredibly clear-cut situation, but since my girlfriend is begging me not to, I don't think he will. But anyway, my girlfriend is a doctor and works in a small local hospital. She went back to her parents for a week when she had a week off and I stayed in our home. I had a minor accident and an ambulance was called. In the hospital another doctor who I didn't know came up and said he had a few questions to ask while I waited on tests. Some basic stuff, but also he asked some questions like, and how long since you masturbated? Are you sexually active? How many partners have you had? Do you have currently? When did you last have sex? Since it was a doctor asking, I answered honesty. All was fine until my girlfriend returned to work. The doctor had apparently told everyone all my personal info. Nothing scandalous, but he said to her, "Wow, it's been 2 weeks since you have had sex. Better do it tonight so he doesn't have to walk again." She was hugely embarrassed, but I was furious. He used my private info to spread gossip about mine and my girlfriend's sex life. I absolutely wanted to report him, but my girlfriend says it's not worth it and that everyone would blame her if he got fired. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. NTA and you should report him. He breached doctor-patient confidentiality and the code of ethics. He did it for you, he's doing it to others, and I'm 99% sure that he asked some of these questions specifically to spread gossip and air your dirty laundry. You had a minor accident, so the doctor doesn't need to know when you last had sex, and I've never been asked when I last masturbated for anything at all. He took advantage of his position and career in order to ask you personal questions that had no relevance at all to why you were there, in order to humiliate both you and his coworker, which is incredibly illegal. You are likely not the only person he has done this to, and even if you are, facing no consequences will tell him that this acceptable behavior, and he will continue to breach the code of ethics and violate doctor-patient confidentiality.